for a very long time, Senegal appeared to be ahead of the curve in terms of democratic reforms. So multi-party politics was reinstated in the 1970s at a time when most African countries were ruled by either military regimes or single parties. So that was a very good selling point for a long time, and obviously much less so the case in recent years because people feel that the institutional credentials have deteriorated. So the idea was that obviously to have a transparent election, which to some extent seems to have been the case. So now the key challenge is what's going to happen in the runoff of this election, because the president has lost ground. He's lost almost 20% between 2007 and 2012, and how it's going to go and whether the result will be accepted either by the president or the opposition.
2 to 3 weeks to the elections, how much has Senegal's economy been impacted? We know that they're not like Nigeria that has a star commodity, which is oil.
I think the short-term impact might be limited. Obviously, the economy is not going to collapse because of some uncertainty in coming weeks. But in the long run, obviously, you want to ensure that there is stability. I think investments were attracted because of the stable environment on the political front. And also, you want to show that there is a coherent strategy in terms of economic and social development going forward. So for that, clearly, you need a government firmly in charge with clear mandates.
Now, the protests appear to be less about the economy and more about the political structure and electoral laws. Why does the economy matter so little?
Yeah, I think it's an irony to some extent, but it's more driven by political factors because there is some sort of fatigue. Well, obviously the president has been in charge for 12 years. Initially, when he came to power, he promised that he would definitively not stay for a third term. And to some extent, people feel that this bid for a third term might jeopardize the country's credentials. I mean, having said that, there are other social issues which are quite important in this election. For example, the power cuts have negatively affected the support of the president. But again, it's an issue which is still related to the politics because in order to improve the power situation, you obviously need to restructure the Senelec, the state-owned power company. And that's really a political framework that's going to solve that.
Now, how has Senegal's market been impacted by all of this? We know that they have one stock listed on the BVRM, but they also have bond markets.
Yeah, I mean, just on the stock exchange side, actually there is a regional stock exchange for the CFA countries, which is based in Ivory Coast. Now, Senegal has one stock listed on the exchange, the Sonatel, which is the Senegalese telecoms company. That said, I mean, it's a large stock. It's about 40% of market cap. But the stock struggled in 2011 because of higher taxes, reduced margins, because the government wants to partially nationalize the company. So the stock was already under pressure even before the electoral process started. Now, on the local currency side, on the bond side, there is no secondary market. So because the bonds don't trade, they are very unlikely to react to any political news flow. But the surprise came from the Eurobond. The Eurobond has actually rallied in recent weeks. It was trading at, I think, 100 plus minus as of late last week. And so it seems that the market completely overlooked political risk. Having said that, you had a risk-on environment across the globe, so all asset classes were supported. All African Eurobonds rallied in January, February. So Senegal was in line with those instruments. It doesn't mean that there won't be any reaction. I mean, obviously, if ahead of the runoff there is more uncertainty, more protests, it's possible that at some point investors will be worried and that they might sell the bonds. So everything will depend on the magnitude of political risk going forward.
Now, Wade's supporters praise him for an infrastructure boom, but his opponents say that he focused on prestige projects while the average Senegalese struggled with rising food prices and power cuts. What really is Wade's economic legacy?
I mean, to be fair, I think the president has focused a lot on infrastructure. A lot of efforts have been made in order to improve the road network, public services, and so on. But obviously, it's never enough. The gap is such that it's going to take a long time to bridge it. The big issue, obviously, is power. we're getting to a point where the Senelec is basically unable to supply the country in terms of electricity generation. And the key issue is that the state-owned electricity company is public. And as very often in Africa, a public company is just not efficient enough. So the government has to restructure it or privatize it. And I think to some extent, the first steps in that direction have started, and the next administration is likely to pursue them.